welcome, listeners. And this is an episode that I've been wanting to probably record for almost a year, I'd say. I've got a wonderful guest here, a man who I deeply look up to and have spent time with, and really seen him lead and hold space for a number of men in a way that I probably haven't seen a man hold space for in my life, with such strength and compassion and love and fierceness for their own transformation and their own growth. Who I have with me today is Craig White. Craig White is an elite performance coach and a men's transformational coach. Hello, Craig.
Hello, David. Wow, thanks for the kind words. And we're not even 5 minutes in yet, so no pressure then, yeah? But it's a pleasure. No, it's a pleasure to be here, mate. I love seeing your face. I love seeing you smile. It lights me up. And I love to seeing you on the retreat, and can't wait for you to join us on the next retreat.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to it. As some of you listeners would know, last year I went on a retreat, Men Without Masks, and that was run and led by Craig. And, it was incredible, to be in a space with 24, 25 men, and there to be no competition, just to be men holding each other up to grow and evolve and be better and to support each other. And it was a really transformational time for me, as I've spoken about in other episodes, to be in a space like that. Mm-hmm. So how are you feeling today, Craig?
Yeah, I'm good today, actually. I'm on one of those days where I'm running around everywhere. I'm on fire. I went to the gym and I'm kind of skipping around. I'm getting shit done. And yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. I've created a retreat for next year called the King Retreat, which is in the Sacred Valley of the Incas in Peru. And it includes Machu Picchu. It's 10, 11 days. And we're almost full. So I'm really excited about that. It's just I love to do things that I haven't done before. And I'm just so excited. It's a dream of mine. It's going to manifest. It's going to happen. And I'm actually going to Peru in 9 days to sort it all out and do a bit of a recce. So I'm really proud of that and excited that it's moving. And we've got a next retreat in May the 19th as well, and that's filling up as well. So fingers crossed we can fill it before it begins. So yeah, I'm good. Things are moving in the right direction.
Nice. It's a beautiful part of the world there, Peru. I've been over there a couple of times, and Machu Picchu is very special. Yeah. The whole region from kind of Cusco up to along the Sacred Valley up to Machu Picchu has a very special energy.
Oh, incredible. It's my favorite place in the whole world. I've been lots of times.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible place. It's a place that inspires, and for me, that's one word that I connect with: leadership, inspiration. And it's just an amazing place where the Inca Kings were inspired, and hopefully we can be inspired when we go there next year as well.
Incredible. And there's a question I like to ask all my guests, and I think I do this for the listeners as well as myself, is to ask, like, what was your journey to do the work that you now do today?
Well, the first thing to say there is that I'm more comfortable around men. Not that I'm comfortable around women, but my superpower is around men. My comfort, my safety, my capacity to hold space with men from which I can support them and challenge them so they can grow. Yeah, I couldn't have the same effect amongst women. I started playing rugby when I was 7 years of age. I've always been in those groups and as a player, but then as a coach in professional rugby at international level, and then kind of evolving into kind of holding space, not only with rugby teams, which I still do more from a leadership and a culture perspective, but also holding space for groups now online, in retreat, going to Peru. It's all connected, and I mean, that's where my superpower is, David. That's the greatest gift I can give to the world, with groups of men, because I'm used to it, and it's one that I will continue. In the future, we may, with Men Without Masks, we may choose to run mixed retreats because I think it's necessary. It's the next step to kind of merge with women, which is really important, of course, instead of in isolation. but for now, you know, we're changing a lot of lives. We're influencing a lot of men through the work that we do, and I'm happy to continue that.
And it's you know, Craig is being modest in many ways as well, because Craig is a coach, is an elite sports coach, and has worked with many international teams, if I remember rightly, from, you know, having a little gander at your website. You know, if he's worked in rugby for how many years now?
I've worked in some capacity in professional rugby for 26 years. Wow. Which included work as a fitness coach, as a nutritionist, as a mental skills coach, as a leadership coach, as a culture building coach, as a mentor to coaches. And now I work predominantly for World Rugby, and my work is with teams like Uruguay and Chile and Georgia. And and in the past I've worked with the Irish rugby team, the Welsh rugby team, the British and Irish Lions. Did a little bit of work in professional football with Bolton Wanderers. So yeah, so sport was my life, and I still connect with the essence of sport and the spirituality of sport and the brotherhood of sport. But also my life is much more than sport now. It's very much centered around my own growth as a man, and also kind of trying to influence the growth of other men, because I see a void there, and I see that the world needs it.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I've spoken to other men working in men's work in the UK. Whenever you mention Craig's name, people are like, yeah, he's been doing this a long time. You know, he's a good old wise head in this business, and what he's teaching is great work. And a number of people that I've spoken to, and I even did a podcast episode with a guy, Callum. I think he's a nutritionist, and he also spoke very highly. I was like, oh, you know, Craig, he spoke very highly of you.
Great.
So in the topic of leadership, I've always seen that we have a really odd relationship to the idea of leadership. Like, it's always seen as being kind of bad and wrong and dirty in some way, especially when we think of men in leadership. You have a lot of kind of negative connotations in our society. Why do you see this as being the case?
Yeah, I mean, just to dig into leadership as a word for a start, and how that has applied to men until recently. I mean, even some of the old books on leadership and some of the models of leadership, they're all about the kind of top guy, you know, leading the cavalry, and you got the leader here, and everybody else is a follower, and obviously that is associated with power, you know. And when somebody has got so much power and the others haven't got power, you know, then we can be a tyrant. Then domination can occur. You know, the shadow king kicks in and, you know, abuses power. So I think leadership, unfortunately, where men have been associated as linked with, has been associated with domination, which is obviously related to, you know, the patriarchy and the domination of men, and how men have always had the power, and so on and so on. But it's also related to a faulty model of leadership. If we look at a lot of the leadership books, especially before the year 2000, and kind of, you know, 50 years before that, it was all very much centered around logic. It was all our logical mind. You know, there's a lot of books written about the what of leadership, you know, the 12 principles of leadership, the model of leadership, the strategic journey of leadership, and very much was written about the how of leadership, and, you know, the embodiment of leadership, and how our body, our breath, our presence, our awareness, our words, our eyes, our ears are all connected to inspiring people as a leader. Thankfully now, leadership is changing. You know, we hear this word embodiment thought about a lot, and embodied leadership. And I love this topic, and I love this movement, if you like, that's happening at the moment, which is more about the how of leadership. You know, how the leaders show up. Now we're hearing more about self-awareness and the importance of knowing oneself as a leader, the importance of interacting and understanding others as a leader as well. So it seems to be moving now into more about the people. It's funny actually, David, this morning I did an embodiment class on Zoom with a group of men, and the theme was on superpower and superheroes. And so when we started the class, I used a metaphor of a child versus a man. And as a child, we want to be a superhero, but we don't know how to be a superhero. So as a child, we look for superheroes and we get fascinated with, for me, it was, you know, the $6 Million Man and Batman and Spider-Man and Superman and Star Wars and so on and so on. It's almost as if that child is looking for a role model of hero-ship. And because there's not a lot of mature role models in the real world, we look on TV. And what often happens is, as a leader, and we're all leading in some way, if we don't have a healthy sense of self, if we don't have a healthy sense of self-awareness, who am I? What do I stand for? What am I grateful for? What are my unique drivers? What are my unique talents and my unique superpowers? And how do I express them in the world, which is leadership? If we don't have a healthy sense of self, even as a man, we continue to project greatness onto others. You know, we go to a football, there's nothing wrong with football, by the way, but we'll go to a football match and it's like, wow, fucking hell, he's amazing. Oh my God, I love you. You know, the actors on screen, Hollywood, oh my God. The entrepreneurs on social media, oh my God, he's fucking amazing. And every time we do that, we're also saying it on the inside, he's amazing. I'm not. Now, I believe one trait of mature masculinity is when we cultivate so much self-awareness and we know what our superpowers are, that we then become the hero in our movie. We are the central point in our movie of service to humanity, call it whatever you want, leadership. And we express our God-given talents. Now, when we know our uniqueness and we can express that on a daily basis, whether that's through our vocation or parenthood or whatever, that's leadership for me. It isn't the Harvard model. It isn't the Marine document, 55 principles of leadership. That's fucking leadership. When we're so confident in our uniqueness that we can show that world, we can show ourselves as a leader in our uniqueness without worrying what other people think, we become the superhero. So I went off on a bit of tangent there, David, but yeah, it was all related to your question. And so this morning we embodied what it was like to be these different superheroes. And then at the end, it was like feeling to our own. And then we had a beautiful check-in at the end where through the session, we managed to cultivate some understanding of our uniqueness. And the question was, what are your superpowers? And we all shared what our superpowers were. And it was a wonderful, wonderful session.
Beautiful. And there's so much in what you said that I even have writing notes in there. And it's like, what the thing that probably jumped out the most is the way in which we look at other people, right? And not see our gifts. We see other people's gifts and it creates separation, and it separates us. We separate within ourselves from our own greatness because we can acknowledge it in other people. We can see that, oh, look at that guy on social media. He's so great at his business or whatever it may be. But by in doing so, as you said, it's like we say that thing doesn't exist in us and we don't have that sort of power.
For sure. I mean, it happens all the time. And to be honest, let's speak the truth here. Leadership is about power. It is, but it's about owning our power. And it's about, with awareness, using our power in a mindful way. But yeah, I mean, we give our power away all the time to the TV, to the athletes, to the actors, to the entrepreneurs. to the people that are better than us, and we don't often realize that we are doing it. The other thing to say about the old paradigm of leadership as well is, and I fell into this trap growing up as well, is, growing up, I always thought that as a leader, you had to be right at the front and you had to be like the commander, the general. And I thought, that's leadership. If I'm not that, I'm not a leader. But now, what I love about the groups that I'm working with at the moment is we're all leaders, and we all lead from a different place. Like, some of us have a talent of being able to see the future and having a very logical, strategic mind. So it makes sense for us to use that talent and be a strategic leader. Some of us we're just finishers. We execute, we get shit done. And it makes sense for us to lead in the world and just model to others the importance of getting shit done. Some of us lead, and I would put you into this bracket, David, as well. Some of us lead with this immense capacity of relatability and empathy and connectedness and people development and understanding others and feelings. And it makes sense for you not to be the strategist, but to be this leader who leads from the heart and leads as a relationship builder. So some of us lead with empathy. Some of us are such amazing listeners. We're masters of listening. So it makes sense for us to lead and inspire people through listening. We're all different. Some of us lead through our voice. Some of us lead through what our body can do and how it can inspire people and motivate people. Some of us lead through our writing, our drawing, our building capacity, our connection to nature. Again, I want to come back to this. Whenever we have enough self-awareness to know what drives us towards our purpose and what our God-given natural talents are, if we use them, we're more likely to be present and in flow. And when we're in presence and in flow, people trust us. And leadership is about trust, and it's about expression of talent.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that when we got on the call tonight, we were initially going to talk about men and women and men and why men are like this. But for me, it's never about that. It's never about, well, men are like this and women are like this. Ultimately, everything comes back to self-awareness, presence, self-love, a bit of vulnerability, expression of talents, feeling like we belong in the world. And that leads to a better world, right? Whether you're a man, a woman, a bisexual, a trisexual, a dog, a cat, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. And I'm going to pick up on the part about self-awareness in a bit, but what also kind of struck was like the old paradigm of leadership, as you described before, the kind of 2000s, which was all about steps and models and control and top down. It kind of did the opposite of what you're talking about. It was about kind of force and domination, but it also assumed that the power was outside of the person, that they didn't have the gifts and they had to then enforce some sort of control over the people to make up for the gifts that they believed that they lacked.
1,000,000%. I mean, even me, I mean, I've actually been coaching, David, in some capacity since I was 16. I did my first coaching qualification when I was 16. It was a rugby coaching qualification. And then I coached at my old school when I was 19. So I've been coaching. Well, to be honest, I've been coaching before that, because when I used to play rugby, I was always the one that liked to tell people what to do. But you could say I've been coaching from the age of 16. That's like 20, 30, 40, like, I don't know, 30, 34 years. And I noticed that when I started, I would hide behind models. It made me look good. I would, well, let's use this model and let's use that model and let's put it into a PowerPoint presentation and let's talk about the steps. Because you're right, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I stood for as a leader. I didn't know my pain. I didn't know my bliss. I didn't know my talents. I didn't know where I could achieve a level of mastery. I didn't know what skills to lead with. So yeah, I did the same. I mean, it's part of a process, but now, thankfully, at the age of 50, I can, even when I close my eyes now, I'm feeling into who I am as a leader and what I stand for and how my body behaves when I'm in flow and when I'm centered, and what wants to come through my body as opposed to what model I can use. So it's almost as if I've managed to flip leadership to an inside out job as opposed to an outside in.
And then and I'm also hearing that instead of it just being all about the mind and strategies and plans, that it's a lot more about feeling yourself, feeling your own gifts and talents, but also feeling into the gifts and talents of the people that you are leading.
Of course. But self-awareness has to come before understanding of others.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, unless it comes super natural, like to you may have always had these empathic qualities. It might be so natural to you, but to me, it wasn't. I was never empathic. It's like empathy. Like I associated empathy and feelings with a woman. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, it was like, I'm a man, I'm not a woman. Again, it's only as I kind of embody that. And if we're talking about masculine and feminine and how we embody the feminine more and more, that's when we can be a little bit more empathic. And it's still a challenge for me. I do find that I'm much more empathic with clients, much more empathic. I can feel them, I can hold them, I can cry with them. But sometimes it's contextual. In intimate relationships, it's still a challenge for me. So it's always a work in process.
Yeah. And it's that old kind of model of leadership that doesn't include empathy, and I keep going on to this because it's like we've all experienced this way of leadership through our work, for our career, maybe in our family, where it was like, these are the rules, follow the rules. That person who's leading from those rules, there's no kind of consideration for what do the people who I'm leading actually need? What's good for those people? It was all the other way around, and what do I want? How can I amass more power? In the way that we see kind of government and so forth. But what you started to put forward is a completely new way of embodying leadership. And in as much as you've probably explained some of this stuff already, and I think it could be valuable for the listeners, is like, how do you see mature, healthy, masculine leadership moving forward now?
What's coming through me now, or what's going through my body now, instead of me having a preconceived way of answering your question, I like to feel into my body. What's coming through me now, especially, it applies to men and women, but I would say especially to men, and I see it all the time. And it is about leadership. So a guy wrote to me the other day on a social media channel, because I posted something about filling up your cup, the importance of filling up your cup to lead effectively. And he didn't agree with me. He said, well, hang on a minute. Nah, service to others, it's all about giving. It's all about give. You give. It's not about you, it's about them. And it's like, well, all right, mate, but that's a very, very phantasmagoric vision of leadership. Because as men, right, every single man I've met in my work, 100% of the time, we're chronic overgivers. We give. We get pissed off, we get frustrated, we get burnt out, we get angry, there's a lack of purpose, simply because half of the equation is missing. Receiving, the art of doing nothing, self-love, self-care, filling your cup, re-energizing, working in, it's missing. And it's a really critical part of leadership, because as a leader, correct me if I'm wrong, but the people that we are inspiring, they want our presence. They want us to see them. They don't want a model. They want us to see them and feel them and hold them and ask questions and guide them and make them feel worthy and make a connection. And then they're more likely to trust us, and then we can create magic together and move in a certain direction. And I see lots of leaders today. I was only speaking to a guy yesterday about this, and he said to me, he said, Craig, I'm doing all right in life. He said, but I feel like I'm getting shit done, but I feel like I'm operating at about like 30 to 45% of my potential. It's like I'm on, but I'm not fully on. I'm just on here all the time. And that's a classic example. It's like there's a lack of presence. It's just going through the motions. It's just ticking off the to-do list. So coming back to your question, men especially, we've got to learn to fill up our cup. Now, because I'm a coach and I can dig into some of the reasons why we become addicted to doing, you know, some of the reasons for addicted to doing is that we've got a false model of leadership. We are confused. We go into martyrdom. Oh, I'm a giver. Look at me. I'm a giving, Mr. Nice Guy. Also, with some guys, they don't realize this, but giving is also a deep sign that we don't feel good enough to actually receive, put down our tools, fill up our cup, take half a day off, go for a massage, do nothing, connect with nature, go in the waterfall, breathe, eat some nice food, and then we go back in. So masculine leadership, we've got to learn to fill the cup up, because we're good at doing. We don't have to do more and achieve more. And ironically, the more we can fill our cup and the more we can learn the art of non-doing and bring some sacredness to the art of non-doing, we'll actually get more shit done anyway. And so that's an issue. I'm working with some guys at the moment, and very, very, very successful guys financially. And it's a slow process and they are making progress, but they can't switch off, you know, and they wonder why they get COVID. They wonder why they twist their ankle. They wonder why the car won't start. They wonder why they've got this mystery bug. It's like, this shouldn't happen to me, because life is telling them to slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like if we don't, as leaders, if we don't create a balance between yin and yang, between do and non-do, and feel into the beauty of not doing, we're going to burn out, and it's going to be too late. You know, cancer, heart disease, broken ankle, divorce, something's going to happen that's going to attempt to force us to rest. So what I've got good at, and I used to be really shit at it, is I've got much better at filling my cup. You know, I'll fill my cup in the day. I diarize everything because I'm organized. So I'll have like little pockets. I call it the sacred window, and the pockets where I center myself. You know, even before I came on the call with you and the client I worked with before you, for 10 minutes before, you know, I'll align myself, I'll breathe, I'll find a balance, I'll widen, I'll connect. So I'm centering in my posture, I'm centering in my breath, I'm centering into the present moment. I also center into some kind of greater force, spirit, call it whatever you want. And I'll set an intention of gratitude. And I've got conscious choice from that place. I've got present conscious choice. If I don't center myself, I have that sacred non-doing in my day, I'm more likely to get triggered. I pick things up from somewhere. I don't really kind of center again. I'm back, I'm doing my thing, and I'm not listening. And it's no wonder my clients wouldn't trust me in that state. So centering, non-doing is really important. So I put it into my day. I'll do more of it at the weekend. I call my weekends sacred weekends. And I'll plan my whole year and put retreat time into the whole year. And like in December, for example, I'm going to Costa Rica for a month to do a water fast. In a few weeks, I'm going to Peru to do some work, but also to kind of fill my cup. So it's important. There's like micro ways to fill the cup, and medium and kind of big ways to fill your cup. And filling our cup is really about non-doing. Sometimes there's a trap of classifying things like going to the gym. Oh, I'm going to the gym. I'm looking after myself. Well, it's still doing. You know, I'll watch a Netflix movie. It's still doing. So non-doing is very much an art that needs to be learnt and needs to be felt into, and sometimes it can be a lonely place, but it's a beautiful one if we can drop into the sacredness of actually doing nothing.
I definitely feel myself falling into that trap when there's a lot on, and it's quite funny. I have an hour I put in every week of like where I do nothing for that hour. You know, that hour is in between. I might be in between calls, whatever, but I will sit down. The only thing that I'll have with me is a pen and pad. So I sit there, no TV on. Sometimes I'll sit out on the balcony here and I just sit there and I just do nothing. I just sit there doing nothing. And if things come to my mind that, you know, might be important or I've overlooked, I have the notepad, I can write those down. But the art is to kind of sit and do nothing and just be. And I find what's really interesting, if I miss it for a week or 2 weeks, to sit, the resistance I have to just sit there, the difficulty in just sitting in one place for an hour is massive. And I see this with my own clients where sometimes when some of them are very productive men, so I'm like, I want you to sit and do nothing for an hour. And they're like, what? What do you mean? I'm not sitting and do nothing. They're like, how's that something to do? But you know, surely I could do some meditation or some breath work or something. No. I want you to sit and do nothing and just experience that and tell me how that was. And the number of us have been trained into this idea that we always have to be productive, right? To be good men. That's a big one, is it? To be a good man, we must always be productive. So the idea of
100%. We pick those messages up growing up, don't we?
Yeah.
I remember a teacher in school, in college, actually, he used to joke about it, but I used to believe him. You can sleep when you're dead.
Yeah.
All those messages we pick up growing up, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to do nothing. It's fucking hard.
Yeah. But it's so valuable for us to slow down, you know, slow down our minds, slow down our beings. It's like we are meant to have time where we do nothing. You know, in the times way before we had cities and cars and all that, we would spend evenings sitting around a campfire, just looking at a campfire, you know, or sitting by a river, just watching it. And now we are kind of locked in this idea. And I think it's definitely a very masculine idea that the only thing that's important is productivity, and moving forward is the only thing important. And stopping is wasting time and wasting energy.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame. I see some kind of change. And to be honest, if men are intelligent, like truly intelligent, surely the penny will drop and they'll think, oh, actually, if I fill my cup there, I'm actually doing less hours, but I'm actually bringing more intensity into what I do. Fuck, I'll get even more done. Let's go. So come on. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science, but when we try and do nothing, there's such a insistent voice inside of our unconscious that says this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, that it takes a while to move through that. But yeah, I mean, if I had to write my own principles of leadership, probably fill your cup is number one. You know, it's number one. Fill your cup is number one. You know, the next one is feel your emotions. The next one is know what you're grateful for. The next one is probably know what drives you from the inside out in terms of what's your inner GPS system. And the next one is what are your God-given talents and how you can develop them. Next one is how are you going to express those in the world. And the last one would probably how do you cultivate presence. You know, it's very different to the Harvard principles of leadership.
Yeah. And on the subject of gifts, you know, because I'm sure a lot of people are sitting around going, oh, you know, I'm not really sure. Like, how do we start to tune into, start to feel into what our gifts are to kind of give to the world?
You're right. A lot of people don't know. And again, it's my job as a coach to help them unpick that. The first step is to become more present, to cultivate some kind of practice of inquiry, whether that's meditation or yoga or dance or connection with nature or just closing your eyes and just asking yourself deep questions. Who am I? What do I do naturally that comes, that I can express? What am I good at? So this kind of deep embodied inquiry is important. The next step would be to ask people, have the balls to actually ask people that you think will give you a good answer. What do you see in me? What do you see that I do quite naturally? And when I do it, you see me smile, it lights me up. How do you see me around people? Like, what am I good at? What am I not good at? And the next step could be some kind of psychometric profile. I'm not usually into those psychometrics, but there's one that I use with a client. And I just actually used it with a client about an hour ago, actually. And that's the Gallup Strengths Assessment. It costs 50 quid. It's with an organization called Gallup. And it takes quite a while to do it. You get a printout at the end with like your top 10 talents. So what I do with my clients is I get them to do that. And then we go through it and I help them to put it in their own language, not the language of a computer. And what we do is we create a table of our top 10 talents. And beside that, I get them to write a statement. How can you continue to develop this talent? So for example, I have a talent of ideation. I have lots of ideas. So if you're in my office now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8 whiteboards, and I'm constantly creating and I'm constantly expressing that in that way. To continue, every day I'm kind of redefining plans and visions and stuff. And so after that, it's the blind spot to be aware of, because every talent has a blind spot. You know what I mean? For example, sometimes if you've got a talent of ideation, the blind spot of that is that you're never present, you're always in the head. Sometimes if you've got a talent of being able to see the future, like I can, if I'm always there, I'm never in the present, which is a blind spot. And sometimes a blind spot of being a futuristic, strategic leader is other people can't see it. And you assume that other people can see it. For example, another talent that I have is when I bring it on at the right time, I can be quite commanding and forthright. But again, if that's turned on too much, people might get threatened and feel like I'm aggressive. So, but coming back to what I just said, it's a very beautiful psychometric profile if you know what to do with it and how to turn it into your own and make it work for yourself. I just did it with a client earlier and it was bang on, and we spoke through it and we changed it into his own language. And at the end of the call, he was like, "Whoa, yeah, I'm going to strengthen these." Because once we know our talents, the only way of achieving a level of mastery is to turn those talents into immense strengths. So for me, strength-based leadership, which is harnessing your strengths and making them even stronger, is the way forward, not the model that we've been taught as kids, where you profile yourself and whatever you're good at, they'll always be good. And whatever you're shit at, you have to bust your balls to bring it up to scratch. Well, you get pissed off because our physiology, our psychology, our being is only in flow when we do things that come natural to us, effortless, and we love them. And those are our talents. We're out of flow and we have to do things that we really fucking hate and they're clunky. And that's when we get pissed off. So as a leader, developing your strengths as opposed to fixing your weaknesses is very important. And for the successful leaders out there, that in terms of finance, if you want to really kind of step into more flow and love and enjoyment and presence as a leader, everything that you're not good at, delegate it out, pay someone else to do it or drop it.
Yeah, that's exactly the model a friend of mine, Jason Grainsay, would say. So like, what you're good at, do more of it. What you're not good at, find someone else you can pay to do it so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Because once you're in that place, you wake up in the morning and you think, I get to do all the things I love doing. I get to coach people because that's what I love doing. I get to record podcasts. That's what I love doing. But if you hate accountancy, do your best to outsource that to someone else so you're not having to spend, I don't know, hours every week pouring over your accounts.
100%, a million percent. I mean, I love doing podcasts. It lights me up. I love it. So I'm trying to create a scenario now. I just employed a marketing woman because I hate marketing, where I'm hoping to jump onto a podcast every Friday at this time, because I love it. I love it.
Yeah. You should think about starting your own, Craig.
Well, I will do my own at some point. Yeah. Oh, well.
We've got a lot of wonderful things to say that I think a lot of people get huge amounts of value out of. And I know we've talked about leadership, right? And we've talked about it. And some people might hear leadership, and we all often think of the word leadership. We think of leading others, right? Like other people, like a sports team or a team at work, or even leading your relationship. But a huge part of leadership for any man, for any woman as well, is self-leadership, is bringing those parts and actually leading our life forward. Because, I'm sure as a coach, you see this with people as they kind of get stuck in their own life. They get in their own way in their lives, and they can't quite move forward. They can't quite start to unlock this level of self-leadership. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts and your experiences. Like, what kind of gets in the way for people that stops them kind of really tapping into their own kind of self-leadership and leading their life?
Yeah. What gets in the way is a lack of self-awareness. You're right. Self-leadership is critical. If we don't lead ourselves, David, we're looking to an authority to lead us. It's like, oh, the government, you'll save me. Well, no, they'll manipulate you. They won't save you. You'll save me. Who's the next prime minister? He might save me. The football team might save me. My new wife might save me. It's like we're giving our power away. So yeah, so self-governance is essential. And what happens when we can get to a point of self-governance is we're led by our executive center within our brain. It moves us towards our purpose, and it's in alignment. It's like we're in flow. But what precedes self-governance / self-leadership is self-awareness. So it's such a big topic, self-awareness, but I kind of like to break it down in kind of understanding what drives us, which is for me, really kind of digging into what are we really grateful for in life, like in relation to the past events, people, experiences, and how they have shaped us as the man we are today. Like, what are we truly grateful for? Pain, pleasure, etc. The second one is, I call it our inner GPS, and I was inspired by one of my mentors, John DeMartini, to call it that. We've all got this inner GPS system, David, and it's a result of our life conditioning and where we perceive the biggest voids to be. So whenever we perceive voids, we move towards them to try and fulfill that void. That's where the word fulfillment comes from. It's not good or bad. It's just the nature of our psyche of evolution. But many men I work with don't have a clue what drives them. They think they're driven by health, but the life isn't showing that. They think they're driven by money. Well, if they were driven by money, they'd have money. The life isn't showing that. So there's a lot of confusion. So I help men to get clear on what I call the inner GPS, the drivers, the hierarchy of drivers that is moving them towards the purpose. And it can be quite unique. It can be quite different. Some men can have a really high driver on fatherhood, for example. Some men can have a really high driver on health. Some don't have a high drive. Money, entertainment, nature, travel, intimate relationships, and so on, business, mentoring, coaching, selling, we're all very different. So I help clients to get clear on that, which cultivates self-awareness. And the third big piece is the talent piece. Once we're clear on what we're grateful for, once we're clear on what drives us, once we're clear on what our talents are and how to express them and how to develop them, then what I do is move clients towards some kind of inspired vision. What do you love? What's your driver-driven vision? Where we going based on your talents and your drivers? Let's create a vision of the future, an inspiring vision of the future. Now we come back, let's create kind of a stress-free path to get there. So I know who I am. I've got a sense of where I'm going. I've got a sense of what I need to do. Now I can come back to presence and be cultivating presence and really center myself and cultivate that and learn to meditate and maybe have another type of practice that deepens that sense of presence. So that's self-awareness. When we've got that level of intellectual and embodied understanding, then we can confidently move forward and govern ourselves. And it's easier to get out of bed in the morning. We don't have any thoughts of depression or suicide because we've got clarity. But unfortunately, men get into trouble and anguish because they don't have that clarity of self-awareness. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing? And the body gets tight and we get depressed and we reach out for dopamine. And yeah, it's a tricky world out there for men, you know. So we have to know ourselves, and it sounds quite esoteric that, but it's not. We have to kind of be able to unpick our uniqueness. We're all different. Obviously, we share the same struggles, but in terms of who we are and what we can bring to the world, we're all very different.
Yeah, we do hold this uniqueness that we kind of forget. And one of the things that I see in what you're saying, it's just, you know, it's there, is that we get, for want of a better word, seduced by what the world thinks we should do and what the world thinks we should be. And we, instead of seeking our own clarity, we seek the clarity of what others or the world sees, the society sees that we should be. So it's like, maybe, you know, and I think you've probably seen this a lot with a lot, again, it's like, well, to be a successful man, I need to make X amount of money and have this house and have these things. And we get seduced into that. We move towards those things without really thinking about, what do I want? What am I good at? What am I grateful for? What does my past teach me? What are my gifts from the things that I do? But we just follow someone else's path. And we get a long way down that path, and we get to a certain point. Some men never. Some men walk that path their whole life, and some get to a certain point and realize that this path isn't leading them anywhere towards the thing they really want, which is a certain level of not just happiness, but fulfillment, joy, and excitement. Those things are just really missing for them.
Well, that's a midlife crisis, isn't it? Or in my case, the midlife transformation. I thought it was a crisis. It's like, oh my God, I shouldn't feel like this. Fuck. Oh, that was important to me. Now I don't give a shit about it. Well, who am I? Oh my God. I don't want to be in that relationship. I don't want to be in that job. Shit. What will my parents think? I can't leave that job because I'm on so much money. Oh, I'm fucking hell. So yeah, it seemed like a crisis, but if we can tap into the courage to listen to our heart and listen to that inner calling of, mate, this is not your path. And we can move towards a new path, which is tricky, it's difficult, but that's where the magic is. But it's tough. It's tough. And you mentioned something earlier about doing things in order to be seen and in order to receive recognition. Well, show me a man that doesn't want recognition. You know, I love to be liked. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm mature now, and it doesn't matter to me like it used to do when I was a kid, but I like positive feedback, and I like people to tell me I'm brilliant, but I also like to tell people when I'm not brilliant as well. But it's tough, especially if you're a man and you've grown up and you haven't received that masculine blessing like we talk about in the retreat. You know, if your dad wasn't around or you didn't have any mentors, you might not be able to get your shit together for a while, and it's tough. Or you might become this crazy workaholic that's trying to prove to yourself and say, fuck you. And you really kind of try and prove to yourself that you're good enough. And it's tough. And it's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And it's one of the reasons why I created the men's retreats that we run at Men Without Masks. Free advertising. Because there's so many reasons why we do the retreats, but one of the main reasons is that, and you've seen it, fucking hell, when you get men together and we build trust and we build safety and we get in our bodies and we're present and we've not got our phones and we feel into, oh, fucking hell, I feel like I'm home here, and we're engaging with each other and we're seeing each other and we're giving each other positive feedback. It's like, oh my God, this is bringing me to tears. I've never had this before. Nobody's ever accepted me the way I am. I mean, that's what your fucking father should do. But for whatever reason, you know, and there's no judgment, you know, men are struggling and our father struggled and our grandfather struggled. This masculine blessing, this fatherly blessing is missing. But our nervous system And this is proven in neuroscience now, it's so adaptable. It's continually adaptable until the day we die. Our nervous system is an information downloading, superhighway. So if we change the information that's coming in, and if we allow ourselves to receive blessing from other men in things like retreats or with a friend or a coach or whatever, and it continues, the script changes, and all of a sudden it's like, fucking hell, I feel good enough. Let's go. So blessing, seeing each other is a massive part of men's work. It's massive. Well, everybody needs it, to be honest. Women as well. Women also weren't seen, generally speaking, by the fathers. But yeah, blessing, seeing each other it's life changing. You and I have seen men, kind of break down in tears of joy and gratitude through being seen and accepted, and yeah,
and it's magical. I'm sure there's many men listening to this here and can probably think that you've never really had a man or a group of men be completely present with you and listen to you from a position of just listening compassionately with love and understanding, right? Because it's different if you're sitting in a boardroom or a meeting at work and people are listening from a place of critique, or you're with your partner and she's listening to you from a point of view of what does this mean about me and this relationship. But to sit in a room with men, especially in a room where there's elder men who can also walk the path already and be listened to and be understood, and you speak until you finish speaking. And at the end of that, those men say, thank you. I understand you. I see you. I feel you. It's that in itself is probably one of the most healing things that a man can receive in his life.
Yeah, of course. 1,000,000%. We just want to be seen, don't we?
Yeah.
We just want to be seen and heard. Come on, that's it. Just want to be seen. Just want to know that we're doing the right thing. We're trying our best, and because we can't see our own video, we can't see it. So yeah, blessing, feedback to each other is a massive part of men's work. It's also a big part of my work I do in professional rugby as well. A lot of the work I do in professional rugby now is around helping, organizations and teams to kind of build that safety and build that feedback culture and build that capacity to honor each other. I see you, brother, but also build that capacity to critique each other from a place of love, honor each other from a place of, mate, I see you doing that. These are your superpowers. We love you. Keep doing more of it. But also feeling safe enough as a brother and someone who loves this guy to say, mate, from a place of love, because I love you, are you aware that you're doing that? It's not fucking good enough. You're not sticking to your goals. You're not committed. You're not in integrity here. So it's also part of my role with professional rugby teams as well. And it's professional rugby is a wonderful doorway for facilitating positive change. I never used to believe that. There was a period in my life where I fell out of love with rugby, and I thought, wow, rugby is egoic. It's not for me. I'm this yoga guy, but it isn't. It's just people. It's just men. We're all similar in the sense of what we need from life and our wounding and where we want to get to. We are all similar in that respect. And because I've got a background, it makes sense for me not to walk away from that, which I tried to do for a while.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're bringing these two worlds that for probably a period of your life were two very separate places. This facilitation, this transformational work, and the rugby work, and now you're bringing these two places together to really influence each other, in the most healthy way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a challenge. I need to integrate them better, because from my heart, and I would like nothing more to see more rugby people on my retreats, because that was my background, and we've had a few, but I would like to see more. So that's I've got to spread the message. I've got to communicate more clearly about what we do and what they would get out of it. But yeah, things seem to be aligning a bit more in terms of the rugby work and the men's work. Thank God. But yeah, I'd love to see more professional sportsmen on our retreats.
Yeah. That would be beautiful. And I know there's been, I can think of a few that I've definitely seen myself. Something you talked about was midlife crisis. And I kind of call it with people I work with midlife awakening. Mm. And I'm interested if you're open to share, what was your journey through your midlife awakening? What was the point at which you realized it was like, I don't want to live like this anymore? And then what kind of steps did you take to shift and change how you were living?
Yeah. Well, from the outside looking in, everything was fine for me. From the outside looking in, I was working for the Welsh rugby team, and I was on good money, nice car, living near the beach, prestigious job, high level, team doing well, and managing people, feeling like a leader. But I was so addicted to doing, and I'd never fucking stopped. I didn't realize that, but I was a doer. I'd never stopped. In at 6, home at 6, prided myself on being the first in, prided myself on being the last out. When I was home, I was exercising. I was just a doer. And I thought that was fine. And I got away with it because I was young enough, and I have a lot of energy anyway. I got away with it. But then I went on a yoga retreat with my ex-wife about, 13 years ago, maybe. And because my mind, not my body, my mind was interested. I, for a while, kind of in my adult life, I was what I would call a closet seeker. I didn't tell anybody, but there's loads of them here, actually. I had a shitload of books on Buddhism and different types of spirituality. And when I used to be working for Leicester Tigers, actually, I used to go to, sometimes I used to go to this Hare Krishna centre at the weekends, because I walked past them once and was like, who are these guys? My mum had told me never to go near those guys because they're fucking mad. But they're singing and they're smiling, and it feels like they're coming from the heart, and they're all eating together on the grass. I'm going to have a peek inside. So I was this closet seeker, seeking something else, but never telling anybody. And then I went on the yoga retreat because I was a seeker, and I thought, oh, mentally, I'm interested in that, the philosophy of yoga, the system of yoga. And it was a month retreat, and it was full on. It was full on, like proper yoga, not like a detox yoga, full on. Swamis, people in orange, people in white, kind of lineage, tantric yoga. And it fascinated my mind, but it also forced me to stop. And I was forced to stop. I was forced to sit still, and I couldn't sit still. And I was forced to sit still in postures. I was forced to meditate. And stuff came up for me, and I've shared this before on different podcasts. And the polarity of that was, I remember in one meditation, it's like almost as if somebody went, and my heart popped out, and I thought about my mum, and I just fucking bursted out in tears of joy. It was like, fucking hell. And there was other times in that stillness and uncomfortableness where it was like, man, I'm so angry, and I've got so much anxiety and so much tears, and I shouldn't cry. I shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't be anxious. That's wrong. What's all that about? So that kind of yin and yang, that pull and push went on for a month. And whilst there was some pain involved, I became fascinated with who the fuck is Craig? Why is Craig living a life that is living like, who told him to live life that way? What about a life on his terms? What does that look like? And that took me on a massive journey of self-discovery. But there was a period of crisis, or perceived crisis, for about a year. I went back into my job with the Welsh rugby team, and because of that experience, like, my inner drivers they changed in a month. And I go back into my job on the same desk, same people, same environment. It's like, and my body was saying, this is not for you. And I was angry, I was pissed off, I was sad, I was crying. I couldn't converse with anybody. I'm thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? What am I doing? Teaching rugby players to carry a ball and put it over a fucking line. What's all that about? So I was projecting anger onto the world, and I needed to kind of come into myself. And it's only kind of when I left the job with a Welsh rugby team, which I had to do in the end. And I moved to Thailand and I learned yoga and became a yoga teacher and turned inwards and did lots of different practices to know myself better and to process emotions and cultivate more stillness and insight. And it's only then that I realized that fucking hell, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Wow, I'm living a life on Craig's terms, not on the town I grew up, my mum, my dad, the school, what my brothers thought and the people around me. And it's on my terms. Who is Craig? What is he good at? What gift can he bring to the world? What lights him up? Let's go and smash it. So yeah, that was the most pivotal month in my whole life, actually, because it turned things upside down, which I guess needed to happen.
Wow. It's quite an experience, because, like, you know, you talked there about projecting the anger outward, and I imagine there's a lot of people that get to that stage, actually projecting that anger out, and never move past that, and they just continue that part because they're like, well, the next stage on that sounded like is to look at within and where that was coming from. And that can be quite an uncomfortable stage to go into, because there's, you know, stuff to looking at one's own behavior and the way one's lived one's life. But it sounds like you were really determined and, you know, put a lot of energy into moving past that and really looking inward, you know. And it sounds like it's what we call, you know, true transformation of life.
Of course. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a human being, so I'm not perfect. And contextually speaking, like, especially in intimate relationships, sometimes I still get angry and I think, fuck, you shouldn't have said that. Where did that come from? But my only barometer, but I do have a barometer of progress. And, you know, when I was younger, I used to get angry a lot. And now, I don't know, I get angry in relationship, I don't know, once every few months, maybe. So I'm not perfect, but there's progress for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to hear, is like, you never really reach this state of perfection. You know, it's always just looking at progressing on, expanding more, opening up more, being more compassionate, connecting to the heart more, feeling others more. That is the progression that we you know, you've been talking about all through the session.
Yeah, and of course, learning to feel is also important for leaders as well, because if we don't feel our own suppressed emotions, we can't feel the other. And that's been fucking tricky for me, David. You know, I was raised by an amazing mother, but also a fucking tough mother who didn't want me to show feelings and wanted me to be the stereotypical male and wanted me to be tough and wanted me to see the world as a battlefield. So I always carry that with me. And again, sometimes it still comes up in relationship. Why am I fighting? Why can I not just view this as an exchange of love? Why can I not see this relationship as a beautiful adventure instead of a fight? So it sometimes still comes up for me. And again, it's just a journey, isn't it? It's a journey until the day we die. And there's work to be done, but there's also acceptance of that as well.
And, you know, you would probably only ever taught that because of your mother's own experience of expressing her feelings and not wanting you to have to go through the pain that she may have experienced at some point in her life. You know, I even see from my own mother, you know, she grew up in Jamaica without her parents. She was, you know, there was like in the 50s, it's very common for Jamaicans to come to the UK and leave the kids they had there. So now she has this real thing of like family is really important, bringing people together, like no one being alone, no one being any sort of special occasion and being alone and not having people to be with. And for me, sometimes it's a bit of a pain. It's like, oh, mom, I just want to like leave me alone. It's my birthday. Like, I don't really care. And she's like, no, you have to bring people together. You can't leave anyone alone on Christmas. And it all of this comes out of her own pain that she doesn't want other people to have to experience, and other people in the world, including her children.
Great awareness.
And you've mentioned embodiment a few times, and I know well that this is something you are highly skilled in, but I think it's something that isn't necessarily fully understood by most people. Like, what is in this embodiment people talk about, or these embodiment practices that are so commonly talked about?
Yeah, it's such a tricky one to answer. It's all about learning, really. You know, that our neuroplasticity, our nervous system is a learning machine. Like I said, it's an information downloading machine. And as men, again, you know, we've been raised in this kind of Newtonian, logical, educational system, scientific system, corporate world that's influenced by that system. And if you look in a lot of the books associated with learning and education and even physiology in the past, you know, there's this real separation between the brain and the body. You know, it's almost as if they were cut off. And you know, a lot of us associate learning with regurgitation. You know, that's what school is, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, it's regurgitation, it's learning, repeat, and nothing gets in. It's like everything is here. So embodiment really, it's really the end stage of a learning process. You know, you think of a sportsman, you know, they'll think of a skill, they'll watch someone on TV, oh, I'd like to do that. They'll break it down, they'll be taught it, they'll contemplate it, and then they'll practice it, and they practice it with the body. And after a while, the skill becomes embodied. No, it's in the, it's woof, yeah, this is embodied. So I like to, when I'm talking about embodiment, I like to say that an embodied practice, and the key word is in practice here, David, the key word is practice. An embodied practice is a way to download different information into your nervous system, into your body, you know, because the old script, a lot of it might not serve you. You know, this, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. I get triggered, that triggers me, that triggers me. And the body responds in a certain way. We don't see it, but it does. And we end up operating a lot of the time in life based on preconditioned neurological responses to things. And some are good and some are not bad, but sometimes, and some are bad, but sometimes the negative stuff, it trips us up and it keeps repeating and we keep making the same mistake. So we have to change the script. And we don't change the script by looking at the wall going, I'm great, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing. That's part of it. You know, a beautiful embodied practice that I teach is actually looking in the mirror and actually changing the script. But we change the script with our eyes, a loving intention, our words, we feel it in the body. So let's talk about some simple embodiment practices that we may have all seen. Breath work, for example, you know, kind of breathing, you know, and feeling new feelings and allowing emotions to come through and having an intention to love ourselves. You know, it's new information. It's opening up the body to kind of new information. You know, yoga, again, it's working inwards. It's, you know, in yoga, they talk about intention a lot. What's your intention? So we're changing the intention. We're bringing more information in. And you know, movement practices, you know, you've been with me in a lot of, you know, sometimes a movement can be very linear, which has its use. You know, it has its use, especially when we're getting shit done. We want to switch on our masculine. But also for men, as we've seen, there's also a beauty in actually learning to allow your body to move in a non-linear way, you know, a more feminine way. So explore the feminine. Feel into the stickiness of those movements and change the language in your nervous system. No, wow, I love moving this way. Whew, the kids in school told me that I was a puff if I did this, but oh man, this feels great. Wow, whoa, feel that, feel like water. So we're changing the script, you know, shaking. Again, it's like shaking and then setting an intention, centering ourselves. So there's a lot of practices around at the moment, but ultimately, any embodiment practice is a chance to cultivate a deeper sense of self-love, change the sensory messages that get into the body. And also every embodiment that I teach is a practice. It's attention training. Whether you're sat like this and you're focusing on your heart, or you're doing a Wim Hof breath, or you're walking slowly, or you're centering yourself, or you're jumping, or you're shaking, or you're dancing, or you're doing yoga or martial arts, it's a practice of attention, attention, attention. Why? Because we need to inhabit our bodies more as men and get in touch with our feelings and cultivate a feeling of self-love in the body. And two, because we need to be more present, more centered. So, yeah.
That was an incredible answer. from when you started off and said, I'm not really sure, that was, you know, what a, I just felt really crystal clear to me. You know, it's like bringing new information into our body. So our body, it's not just we bring it to our mind, you know, like we pick up a book and we read about, you know, you say leadership, for instance, we pick up a book and go, okay, first step of leadership, confidence. Okay, so what's confidence to my mind? But what I'm hearing here is like to go, okay, what does confidence feel like in my body? Or maybe let me stand in a way that feels like confidence. Let me remind my body that even if it's telling me at this moment that this feels uncomfortable, this feels weird, this feels foreign, that this is safe to feel this way. It's safe to be confident, and start from that place so that our bodies start to learn, not just our minds.
100%. Do you know, I went on a retreat once, a men's retreat to America with a teacher who you know called David Dieda, and we did a fascinating exercise on day one. And actually, there's some scientific research around this as well. And there's about 30 men, and he asked some women to come in, and without knowing the men, to pick out who they trusted the most. And then the women went out of the room, and we did it between ourselves as well, who they trusted the most. And the 5 men that we picked out, well, who got the most votes, and the 5 men that the women picked out were exactly the same. And when we dug into it, you know, that the teachings were that whether someone trusts you or not, it comes from the perception of what you embody. And quite interestingly, the 5 guys that were chosen, if you looked at them, whether or not the posture's like that naturally, but in that moment when they were being assessed, they were grounded down, they were lengthened up, they were opened, they were balanced between forwards and back, the breath was soft, the feet were confidently pointing forwards, the chin was in, the jaw was soft, the eyes were soft, there was a subtle smile, and there was an emission of energy which was kind of moving forwards in life, and it was fascinating. Now, I've done a little bit of reading around this, and there's a lot of research been done in corporate leadership as well, and it's the same. It's the same. You know, if you walk in a room like this, I mean, who do you trust the most, for example? The guy that's full of information, he walks in the room like this. Or this guy, the guy that's centered himself, walks in the room, comes forward. So the way we show up as a body has a real important ramification on whether someone trusts us or not. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, but it's a practice, because we lose our center, we lose our shape, we adopt the shape of trauma, we adopt the shape of wounds, we adopt the shape of being triggered. So a key practice that I do with my clients, and they do it a lot, and I remind them when I send them text messages, is centering, which is really returning to presence. What I also sometimes call centering with my clients is it's a way to cleanse your nervous system of what you've picked up. So yeah, this embodied postural physiological presence is quite important. It's really important, but it's difficult to write about stuff like that in books. You have to practice it. A key guy for viewers to check out is a guy called Richard Strozzi. He runs the Strozzi Institute. They've been teaching embodied leadership for years, and he's got a lot of beautiful books. One of them's called The Leadership Dojo. So he has a dojo, you know, similar to what they have in martial arts, and he takes leaders and they practice leadership, embodied leadership, you know, with others, how you show up, the space in between, how you breathe when you're with a leader, how you look. It's fascinating stuff. And I'm actually going to train though with him in June, actually in California, and I can't wait. It's the next kind of chapter for me, really, to get into my body and come home to my body, because life taught me that it's wrong to be in my body, and life taught me to change my body, and life taught me to work out instead of working in. But true embodiment has nothing to do with the way we look. It has everything to do with the way we feel on the inside and what we are, how we are showing up as a body in the world.
What he really is transmitting so much information and taking in so much information that we have negated because we assume it's coming in through our eyes and our ears and so forth. And it's interesting what you say about the nervous system. I was listening to a podcast recently talking about how our nervous system influences other people's nervous systems. So if we are in the presence of someone whose nervous system occurs to us as being strong, if they walk in the room and they're calm and they're centered and relaxed, that instantly triggers in everyone else that it's safe to be calm and centered and relaxed. But if someone walks into the room and they are feeling on edge, they're feeling anxious, what that does is trigger in the other people's nervous system this feeling of on edge and feeling anxious, right? And it goes back to that feeling sometimes where we've all had it, where someone, a family member, they walk in the room and suddenly everybody's just on edge, like, oh, okay, this is weird. I want to get out of here. I want to be somewhere else. And it all comes down to this fact that we're constantly interacting with each other's nervous systems for safety, for understanding, for guidance, for leadership. But most of us are completely unaware of this, and we're just assuming that, you know, we're looking for the kind of information we can see and hear.
Well, we're all antennas. We're all electrical antennas. A tip that I give to leaders, especially rugby coaches, and you know, corporate leaders, is, you know, when you're working with a group and you're the one responsible for mostly guiding that group, whatever energy you want from that group on that particular day, you have to embody that. So if you want your team, let's say you're working with a rugby team, if you want the team on the hardest training day of the week to be quite laser beam focused, game face, bit of aggression, you've got to show that with your body. You know, you have to show that with your body. If you want the players to rest, it's a rest day, it's a fun day, it's a no stress day. You've got to somehow have a relationship with your body and show up in that way. Hey fellas, how are we? You know, there's so many ways that we can show up as a body to influence a group. You know, another one might be dynamism. You know, you want a bit of dynamism, you feel that your group's been a little bit lethargic. It's like, hey guys, how are we? Ready? How are we? Ready to go? Hey, stand up. So these are leadership skills, Dave, that we're not taught in books.
Yeah.
It don't fucking matter what models we've got. If we can't show up as a leader and know that our energetic field, our embodied field is influencing other people, we're just stuck in the head.
Yeah. And I'll be remiss if not saying this is something that I talk a lot with my clients around in their relationships in particular, is like, how are you showing up when you're in front of your partner? What energy do you bring to the room? Whether that's when you're having a conversation, whether you're in conflict, whether it's in intimacy, because quite often we're looking for cues from our partners, instead of going, okay, I'm going to become grounded, like you were saying before, and be centered, soft breath, you know, strong back, upright, and come from that place, because that will put so many, if you find yourself in conflict in your relationship a lot, just that simple practice when you're having a conversation or you're having a conflict of breathing, being grounded, will reduce the number of conflicts and arguments you have almost instantly, straight away, because you'll both be more at ease. The way in which you won't be so much in reaction, you'll be a lot more grounded, a lot more calm, and a lot more in your senses of listening.
Yeah. Easier said than done, right? In relationships. But no, you bang on. I mean, one of the practices that I give to my clients is the practice of just before you go through the door when you return from work, just before you go and put the key in the door, to center yourself. Find your center and then walk through the door. But yeah, it's easier said than done. I'll hold my hand up. I still struggle.
Yeah. And it's something I like you were talking about. It's like visualization. It's like visualizing how would you love the evening to go. Create that the vision of what you want and walk in the door with that. Because what often we might turn up and be like, oh God, I've had a long day. God, what's there going to be at home for me? Center yourself, relax. What's the vision of what you'd love? You'd love a really peaceful evening where you have fun and connect, because that is you'll embody that and you'll bring that energy into the home as you step in, because you have that power to bring that into other people's lives as well, as we said.
Of course. We could talk for hours.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I've got a couple more questions, because
I'm getting quite animated. I need a bigger space.
Greg's a man with a lot of energy. I have a couple of questions from people on social media and my coaching clients. And one of these questions is around meeting our edge. What is one of your favorite ways to lean on your edge and challenge your body and challenge your mind on a daily basis?
I'm feeling into this one because I've spoken about it before, and with embodied practice that I'm talking about now, there's something to be said, especially first thing in the morning. Check out the work by Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist, around kind of the importance of the first hour. There's something to be said for embodying a practice that you love, that you like doing. Now, for me, that's related to how that sets up your nervous system for the rest of the day, and I get it. There's also something about sometimes, not all the time, going to your edge, as we often speak about going to your edge. I'm fascinated by it, actually. It really fascinates me, and I can only talk from my own experience. I mean, who am I to judge anybody else? That's where the growth is, right? That's where the rewiring is, and that's where the new reality is, and that's where the evolution is, and the transformation. But for me, we have to check in with ourselves and, like, is it an edge? Is it an edge? Like, for example, and I hope the SAS guys don't kind of come and sniping me down, but you see a lot of guys who've been in the army for years, for example. They're used to doing ultra kind of events, and then you see on social media that they're doing something extreme, like linear running or that kind of stuff. Well, my question is that an edge? Or has your nervous system got conditioned to doing that? Yes, it's painful and you're addicted to pain, but like, is it an edge? Like, let's go and dance. Let's go to a tango class. Let's go to a 5 rhythms class. Let's go to an ecstatic dance class. Come on a Memory Mass retreat. Let's get in our bodies. Let's explore some nonlinear movements. Let's go up to another man from 2 inches away. Look him in the eyes and tell him what you see. So, I mean, that's just a crude example. There are obviously examples in the other way as well, where, we may have been conditioned to kind of be quite comfortable. We've got a loose body, and an edge for us is actually running a marathon, or an edge for us is doing an ultra marathon, of course. But yeah, I think we just got to feel into our own integrity. Like, is it really an edge? So, but that's just my life, David. I'm always looking for an edge, but I'm risky. I take risks. I'm a risk taker. So like for me, an edge is still in that area of movement and dancing, because I never did it as a kid. It was like dancing. Fuck that off. So I just like to do things that I've never done before. I've never jumped out of a plane before, so I'm doing that in a couple of months. Not for the sake of it. You know, whenever we go to an edge, I also think we have to metaphorically bring it back to a purpose as well. It's like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? For example, maybe I want to go into the dark for 10 days. Well, why? Well, I want to go into the dark because I want to learn how to sit with my thoughts instead of reacting, and that will help me to kind of be more present in relationships, give up sugar, and so on. So we have to have a metaphorical reason. I'm going to jump in a cold, freezing lake with ice on the top. Well, why? Not because your mates do it and you see people do it on social media. Well, no, I'm going to do that because it will force me to be present. It will force me to slow my breath down. I find that I get anxious a lot, and I want to learn how to step into my edge and control my breath and find that place of stillness. So I'm going to commit to doing that for 21 days. So in summary, the edge, for me, we have to feel into whether it really is an edge and it's taking us somewhere different. And two, we have to bring it back to a metaphoric, loving intention, like a loving reason. Like, why the fuck are you going to do that? You know, to just show off or inflict pain, you have to have a reason for doing it, because the nervous system needs to know the why. The nervous system always needs to know the why. Meditation in the morning, why? Why? To build up your meditation, it's not enough. Your nervous system needs to know a why. I'm meditating today because I've got 6 clients this week and they need my presence.
Powerful answer.
I'm enjoying this podcast.
Yeah.
This.
and the last question, I think you're going to like this one. This is one of my clients who's a teacher, and he's asking is what is a good or correct kind of masculine style of leadership with children, especially when we're teaching children in school.
So my answer to this, which probably is inspired by a mentor of mine, John DeMartini, but I like it. For me, as you know, David, I don't always refer to masculine and feminine. For me, leadership with a kid, you know, it's they've got a thirsty nervous system. And when you're a kid, it's very, very adaptable. It's almost as if those superhighways have not been engraved yet. So they're looking to learn and they're downloading fast. So the way you show up is fucking critical. And how you show up as a body and how present you are and how much you can see them and your behavior, the downloading everything. But coming back to the specifics of the question, for me, a leader with children is stepping into, you're almost a father, aren't you? A father and a mentor. And for me, there has to be both support and challenge. There has to be both. Now, obviously, your kid's no different to an adult. They need to feel safe, first of all, safe around you. You need to check into connection. So those are the first rules of communication for me, working with clients. You need to make sure that there's safety there. Safety is a feeling. If you don't feel it, then it's not safe. Once you feel safe, there needs to be connection. You've got something in common, an element of trust, and then you can influence. So that for me, you influence by supporting and challenge. And so kids need to be seen. I see you. I support you. You're good enough. I like it when you do that. Keep doing that. Try do it that way. Yeah, awesome. You're getting better. But kids need the other as well. They need the other side as well. That's not good enough. That's not acceptable. You need to learn some rules here. You can't keep doing that. I won't tell you again. If it's coming from embodied connection and love, it's necessary. You know, even if the kid spits his dummy out like we can sometimes do as adults, the reaction to a loving criticism is not always the way you want it to be. It doesn't mean that it was wrong to criticize someone and to challenge someone if it's from a place of love. So for me, it's that balance between support, challenge, and that applies to kids. It applies to our self-love. It applies to love in a relationship. It applies to love in teams, is making sure there's an equal amount of support and challenge coming from a place of, I love you.
Powerful. And I think that's the you said there, it's like equal amounts of challenge and coming from the place of I love you. Because I think so many kids, and I remember being at school, it didn't, the teachers I remember the most, who helped me the most, even when they were hard and firm, the hard and firmness was always, they also gave you the love, the encouragement, and the support, and you knew that it was always coming from exactly the same place, irrespective of how it kind of left their mouths.
100%. I had a teacher in school called Mr. McLeod, and oh man, like some boys just felt threatened by him, but man, he would give you both sides of the coin. Oh man, when he thought you were good enough, he'd look you in the eye and say, "You are fucking incredible." And then when you did the wrong thing, you'd feel the wrath. And until this day now, I feel quite emotional thinking about him and his effect on my life. You know, it's a real kind of influence on my life.
Wow, Craig, that was you know, time has really flown. It's been incredible as always, you know, listening and holding space with you, and, you know, listening to the wisdom of how we can really bring leadership into the future, into an embodied, heart-centered expression of us and our gifts. And I'm sure that the listeners are really dying to know how they can get in contact with you, how they can work with you, how they can find out how to come onto the retreats as well.
Yeah, on the web, if you go to menwithoutmasks.com, you'll see the work that we do there. You'll find us on Instagram. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Craig White. Craig White Mentoring is also on Instagram. You'll also find my high performance work on my website, Craig White Mentoring. And yeah, I mean, the work we do in Men Without Masks revolves around life-changing retreats, incredible transformational life-changing retreats, online group programs, private mentorship. And we're just in the process of creating some kind of online community, which will be a low ticket offer, online library, regular check-ins, guest speakers, and regular teaching sessions from me. And my work through Craig White Mentoring is more aligned with professional sports, professional team sports, culture building, mental skills, you know, mentoring, leadership development, self-awareness, interpersonal skills. And yeah, so that's where they can find me.
Awesome. And guys, you know, you listen to this, I can't speak more highly of the Men Without Masks retreat. You know, a lot of men come to me, talk to me, work with me simply for being able to talk to a man and be listened to and be seen. And I can only tell you that going on one of these retreats and being seen by a multitude of men from different walks of life, it truly is life-changing. It's truly transformational for you and how you interact with men. So all the links to this are going to be in the show notes, and I do implore you to interact in some way, whether that's look at the website and find out about the programs, because it really will make a massive difference to how you operate in life and how you lead yourself and how you lead those people that, you know, you really love and care about in your life. So yeah, listeners,
that was a good one, that.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. Wow, some golden nuggets in there.
Yeah. Let me just stop that one.